guys so much for tuning into today's episode of the Worlds of Country podcast. I'm your host, Andrew. On today's episode, I'm joined by Sarah Allison Turner to talk all about her musical journey and her time in Nashville and her brand new single, Lemonade. I hope you guys enjoy this one. I really did. Talk to you guys on the other side. Hey, Sarah, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. What have you been up to lately?
Just writing songs and enjoying a little bit of sunshine here in Nashville.
So, when did you sort of know that music was going to be the thing for you?
Um, I grew up in a really musical family. So I was kind of always around it. My dad plays and sings and writes. I have uncles and aunts. Everybody plays and sings in my family. So it was always a really big part of my childhood. I think that when I was in high school and I started putting words to music myself, I think that was when it really started to click for me that this was a much deeper passion than I really realized. And I discovered Nashville and places like the Bluebird and things like that. And so that was kind of when the fire really got lit for me to be here and pursue this.
You sort of came to this realization that it could be more than just a hobby at the end of the day.
Yes. Yep. That's right.
So what would you say was that first big step you took towards making it more of a career than a hobby?
I would say the first big step I took was auditioning for the Bluebird. I was 15. Um, I don't know what the audition process is like now, but back then you get online and I think there's sort of like a like digital wait list or something where you wait in line and hope that you get kind of in the past the threshold for like getting to audition, and then you come down here, you stand in an actual line, you do the audition, and it's like a verse chorus, and then they notify you, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 weeks later whether or not you passed. But doing that was kind of like the first step that was like, all right, I want to be in Nashville. This is kind of the place that I need to get into if I want to go. So that was the first big step.
Was it nerve-wracking to do all that as a 15-year-old, or were you all, I gotta do it all right now?
A little bit of both. I probably more so then than I am now was just very like, no, I'm gonna do this. No questions asked. Like, it's scary. Nashville's far or whatever, but I was just so determined that that's what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. Was almost like a just kind of a fearless mindset. Like I was just like, this is where I want to be.
And sometimes it's good to have that little bit of immaturity or
Ignorant,
be a little naive. Yeah,
right?
yeah. You got to be a little green.
Right.
So when did you make the move out to Nashville?
I made the move in 2011, August of 2011. So it's been about 11 and a half years for me.
What would you say have been some of the bigger lessons you've learned over your time in town?
Bigger lessons? Ooh, that's a good
Yes.
question. Um, I would say as an artist and as a writer, years ago when I first got into my first publishing deal, somebody gave me some really good advice. Um, and that was to just show up as myself every day in the writing room and to not be so focused on, trying to write for another artist or trying to sound like this or trying to present something in a certain way. And this person was just very encouraging of just show up as you and do you and see what comes as a result of that. And so that was really truly like some of the best advice I could have ever gotten, and just a sort of a constant lesson that I'm sort of always having to learn and just keep in mind.
Was that something that early on was hard for you to stick to? Did you find yourself almost chasing other things instead of staying
Oh
true to
yeah.
yourself?
I when I signed my first publishing deal, I remember like trying to cast as many nets as I could in different directions because I just wanted to do it all. And it was my publisher at the time, and she was kind of just like, wait a second, like let's dial it back. Like we signed you for you. It's great that you want to go after all these other things, but like you need to just show up as you. There's a sort of a stamp and a delivery that you're going to bring to the table that will start to be unique to how you approach songs. And so some of the best writers in town sort of have that stamp and that sort of signature where you just like hear a song and you go, oh, that's a so and so song. So I was trying to just like cast a net everywhere that I could.
So how long did it take you to carve out what makes you unique?
I think I'm still trying to carve out what makes me unique in a lot of ways. Um, I don't know. I think I still am. I think it's sort of a continuous process. Um, I think with a little bit of age and a little bit of just putting in some time in town, I think some of that comes organically. But I would say definitely probably there was a lot of growth in my first publishing deal in my first like 6 or 7 years in town. And then there was sort of a corner that was turned that was like, all right, this is starting to make a little bit more sense to me now.
A lot of times that happens with time, I guess.
Yes, yep.
Time and yeah, growing up.
Yes, growing up. That's right.
Growing up. As much as we might not want to, we all got to do it.
I know, unfortunately.
So, when you moved to town, did you always know that you wanted to do the artist thing in addition to being a writer, or were you thinking at first maybe you just wanted to be a writer?
Um, a little bit of both. I mean, I would say at first I was more focused on being a writer, but I always wanted to be an artist too. It was just kind of like, I'm just going to pursue the writer thing first. But so both, but more of the emphasis on being a writer.
So what sort of pushed you towards artistry?
I mean, I've always considered myself an artist, and that's always been like always kind of been the path I've been on. But I think just being here and seeing, you know, the talent and the resources and just what is available around us in this great city of Nashville was just like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. I would be selling myself short if I didn't at least try.
Was it overwhelming for you when you moved at first, or was it inspiring to see everyone chasing the same exact dream as you?
Both. Very overwhelming and also very inspiring. Um, Very humbling, very encouraging. I mean, just kind of a mixed bag of all the things. You look at the talent and you just think, I don't deserve to be here. And then on the other hand, you're like, man, I'm very fortunate and very grateful to be here.
On the one hand, you almost feel like you're not worthy to be there, and then on the other hand, you're like, I'm surrounded by all these amazing people around me. Why don't I learn from them?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah. So you said you've been in town for 11 plus years now. What would you say have been some of the bigger ways the industry has changed over that time?
Some of the bigger ways the industry has changed.
Yes.
I mean, probably first and foremost, streaming, social media. I can remember when I first moved here, and I feel like I'm officially starting to sound like I'm old, like I've been doing this. But when I first moved to town, I went to MTSU and I studied the music business program. And I remember at the time, the music publishing course was structured a certain way. And I can remember our professor like just sort of planting the seed of like, now y'all watch and see what Spotify's going to do. I think that the industry is going to really change over the next few years. And it's, you know, just kind of crazy sitting here now going like, wow, it's not just Spotify. There's so many digital streaming services now. It's like that is the new norm.
And then you add on the social media stuff, and
And the
it's
social
a
media,
whole new world.
whole new world. I mean, when I moved to town, it was MySpace. That was social media and
Now
Facebook.
you now you have 50 other things that you have to keep up with. Yeah. So, was the social media stuff easy for you to embrace, or were you reluctant to sort of get on that train?
Um, I would say for me a little bit of both. I mean, I love being social. I love a lot of aspects of social media, and I also struggle with a lot of aspects of social media. I think on the positive side of things, it's a great marketing tool. It's free marketing. It's a great way to keep in touch and see what other people are doing and just kind of be in the know of what's up and what's going on. The struggle side for me is just all that it demands to be on there and be present and to be consistent with posting and stuff. So it's a mixed bag. I mean, there are positives and also just negatives for myself for personal struggles.
It's kind of like a whole second job in a way.
It is.
Yeah.
It very much is nowadays for sure.
So we talked about lessons before. What would you say have been some of the bigger challenges that you've had to face over your 11 years in Nashville?
Biggest challenges? Oh goodness. The first one that comes to mind is having patience. Patience for a publishing deal, patience for making a record, patience for putting out music, patience for, you know, waiting on the yeses when it seems like all you're getting are no's and not right nows. They say it's a 10-year town, and it has sort of, Nashville has earned that nickname for a reason. And I think that is just because it takes time, and it's not necessarily the 10 years itself that is the significance. It's just the fact that it takes time. And so, you think when you move here, if you work hard and then things will pay off, and it's not that that's not the case. It's just things take time. And so probably the biggest challenge is just trying to have patience through it all.
And that must be so easy to sort of get down when you don't see that immediate payoff, or even that payoff within like a few months, and you have to keep on doing the same thing over and over again until
Yeah,
the well finally breaks.
absolutely.
So how would you describe your musical style for the people out there who maybe haven't heard you before?
Yeah, I would say, my music is kind of a little bit of a mix of traditional country with a little bit of rock. Lyrically, I love approaching songs from the standpoint of the truth, whatever the perspective is, whether it's a male's perspective or a female's perspective. Like, we're kind of all experiencing things in a lot of ways very similarly. So I try not to get too hung up on, what a female would normally say or what a male would normally say, and just sort of write the truth about it.
You sort of can't force it too much. You gotta just let it be natural in a way.
Right, right.
So which of your songs that you have out would you say best sort of show off this style?
Um, I would say, and not just because it's the most recent, but my song Lemonade that I just released in February of this year, which I guess it is still February now that I'm saying that. So a
For a
few
few
weeks
more
ago.
hours.
Yeah, for a few more hours.
So could you tell us the story behind that song and how it came together?
Yeah, so I wrote that song with a few girlfriends, Autumn McIntyre, Emily Falvey, and Haley McLean. We wrote the song during the pandemic. Haley was up in Canada, so she zoomed in, and it was right at that point in the pandemic where we were starting to kind of do stuff in person, but it was really only just on whoever felt comfortable. And so me and Autumn and Falvey got together, and I was kind of chewing on the idea, I'm making it. And I got the idea from a conversation I'd had with somebody. Often, like, when people are chasing a dream, we hear the phrase like, wow, you've really made it, or wow, you're making it. And I don't remember what it was specifically, but someone had like said that to me in conversation, which was a great compliment. And I walked away from the conversation just sort of like thinking about the irony in that statement, and how to them it looks like I'm making it, but from my perspective, I'm thinking about all the things I've made work in order to be able to chase the dream in the first place. And at the time, I had two different side hustles. I was shopping for a new publishing deal. It did not feel like I was making it at all. It felt like I was struggling. But to the outside looking in, it looked like I was making it. And so we just kind of kicked that idea around for a little while. And I think somebody said the line about lemonade, and we were like, okay, I think there's something special here.
Was this a song that you always knew you wanted to put out eventually, or did you sort of let
It
it
was.
marinate for a while?
Yep, it was.
Right away.
Right
Yeah.
away.
And those are the ones you sort of know are special at the end of the day.
Yeah, those are really, really cool moments.
How often do you feel like you have those moments?
Not very often. Not very often, which
I
is
guess
what makes
they
it
wouldn't be as special if you have them all the time.
that's right.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
Next for me is being on the road a good little bit this spring and some more new music soon.
Sounds like all the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff.
Yes.
So I want to do a little rapid fire with you before I let you go, if
Okay.
that's cool with you. This is where I get everyone. If I didn't get you on the challenges and lessons,
Oh
now
boy.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
If you could only eat one food the rest of your life, what would it be?
Macaroni and cheese.
Good answer. You got two foods in one.
Yes.
Would you rather have 20 fingers or 20 toes?
20 toes. I don't know.
Neither of those are great choices.
No, I'm like, what's the lesser of two evils there?
Dream venue to play.
The Grand Ole Opry.
Dream collaborator, dead or alive.
Leanne Womack.
Good answer. Good answer. Biggest impulse buy you ever made.
Ooh, that's a good question. Biggest impulse buy? I'm not an impulse buyer.
Now you're
Um,
flexing on us.
Actually, I'm looking at my guitar sitting here beside me, my Gibson Hummingbird. That was a bit of an impulse.
At least
Unnecessary.
it's something you use,
Yes. Yeah.
so you could justify it a little bit.
Yes, exactly.
You could only listen to three artists the rest of your life. Who would they be?
Oh, Merle Haggard, Leanne Womack, and Miranda Lambert.
Good mix there. Good mix. And I have one more for you. What was it? What the hell was it? Sometimes my brain have a thought and it just flies away and then takes a
Happens
while to come
all
back.
the
But
time.
I'm sure in like a half an hour from now I'll get it back. It'll be too late. What was? Oh yeah, this I got it now. Would you rather never be able to write a song again or never be able to perform again?
No, you can't ask me that. Oh no, you're breaking my heart. I can't choose. It's like asking me to choose which of my two babies I would want to give up. Pass. Pass. I can't
It would have
answer
been better if my thought never came.
that.
Fine, we'll give you a pass. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time for this.
Thank you so much. It's great to meet you.
You too. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. If you liked what you heard from Sarah, be sure to go check her out on social media and go check out her music wherever you listen to music. If you liked what you heard from the podcast, be sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. We really appreciate that. And go check us out on social media at Worlds of Country on all platforms. If you guys liked what you heard, talk to you guys next time.